Dear learners, good evening and welcome to the English session. This is a session which is run on different subjects, and today the English subject. Don't forget the continuation of the previous talk, which was run a few days ago. The same talk is analyzing literal works, specifically for Form 6, but it's also beneficial to students who are taking literature in English in O-level, Form 4 and Form 3. The topic, analyzing literal works, the subtopic, poetry. And in the previous time, we did discuss on important issues, some which includes what context we expect you to gain after the end of this lesson. The first context, we expect that you as a learner to identify poetic devices in a given poem, but also to be able to apply the poetic devices in simple poems that you can compose. The last time we discussed about the meaning of poetic devices, and we were also to remember that devices are tools a poet uses to compose a poem. But also we did point out the three categories of poetic devices, which are language devices, musical devices, and structural devices. Okay. We did discuss about two devices, which are language devices, sound devices, and today we shall take part on structural devices because last time we promised that it will be on next session, and today is this session. But before we go on with the today's sessions, let us remind ourselves what were poetic devices we discussed in previous poems. The poems, in fact, were Building the Nation by Henry Barrow, A Freedom Song by Marjorie Olure, You Are Praying by Amanda Muguza, You Are Lost by Zaki Muma, Africa by David Job. But in today's session, we shall add two poems, which are Ballad of the Landlord by Langston Hughes, as well as If We Must Die by Claude McKay. We passed through language devices such as personification, and you were able to see how personification is applied, but also synecdoche, and we tried to see how synecdoche is applied by various poets in different poems. We passed through symbolism, the words used in Africa, and as well in a freedom song, but also we discussed about rhetorical question and the way it is applied in various poems. Yes, these were some of the poetic devices and language devices, and we promised you to go in the poems and work more on irony, metaphor, simile, and imagery. We also passed through sound devices, anaphora, and the way we discuss it, the way it's different from anaphora, the way it's different from epiphora. But we also discuss about anadiplosis and the ways applied in a poem, freedom song. But also we discuss the concept rhyme, and after all, this is just a common technique used by many poets, and it's commonly understood by many learners. But also the concept refrain, we discussed that it's one of the poetic devices which contributes to musicality in a poem. Having discussed those sound devices, and then we marked the previous sessions by reminding that there are more sound devices that were not touched in this presentation. So you are given an assignment to work on alliteration, consonants, assonance, and see how they are applied by various poets in your poems of your choice. Then we'll come to today's session. Specifically today, we are going to talk about structural devices. The structural devices, in fact, are manifested in a way a poem is organized. How the poem is composed, the appearance, the physical appearance of a poem. See? So we say they include features like syllable, meter, types of verses, types of stanzas, and the punctuations. The structural device, in fact, helps to identify type of a poem, type of verse forming stanza, as well as the type of stanza forming a poem. Also, in detail, let us start with a syllable, meter, and verse. A verse is a metrical line in a poem. A verse is formed of meter. A meter is formed of smaller element known as a syllable. Dear learners, a poem in fact is made up of different parts. And most students do think that the line or a verse is the smallest unit, but not. The line, in fact, is also made up of smaller units. In fact, the meter makes a verse, but a verse gets a name, or we get a type of a verse depending on how many meters are forming a verse and what type of meters are forming a verse, as well as a meter is formed of small elements known as a syllable. Syllable, in fact, a type of syllable, and the way they're organized, they will affect what type of meter is forming a verse. At this level, of course, we shall not go into discussions of meter and syllable, but let us go to a larger unit than a verse, which is a stanza. A stanza, in fact, is a division in a poem formed of a group of lines. A stanza is set apart from other stanzas by a space or indentation. Traditionally, stanzas are named depending on a number of lines forming them, meaning that each stanza has got a name depending on the number of lines that form that stanza. Therefore, let us pass through as quickly as possible on different types of stanzas. A couplet is a stanza formed of two lines. A triplet, or sometimes called a tercet, is a type of stanza which is formed of 3 lines. A quatrain is a type of stanza formed of 4 lines, and a quatrain is a 5-line stanza. A sestet is a stanza comprised of 6 lines. A septet is a stanza formed of 7 lines. Lastly, an octave is a stanza formed of 8 lines. This means that if you're passing through a poem, you have to identify a type of stanza if you really want to fully learn or reveal the physical appearance or the structural of the poem. Therefore, if you don't know the type of stanza forming that poem, probably you will also lack some of the skills of analyzing that poem. Because in one way, we have to point out, this poem is formed of 3 stanzas, but these types of stanza differ. The first, for example, stanza is a triplet because it's formed of 3 lines. The second stanza is a sestet because it's formed of 6 lines as well as other poems. So, say, apart from the common structure of verses that help to identify a type of stanza, a stanza can go larger than the 8 lines we have seen. For example, in David Rock's Africa, this poem is a poem formed of 24 verses which are organized in a single stanza. So, in modern time, poets have invented a number of ways, but traditionally, a poem could not have a stanza larger than those types of stanzas mentioned. There are also other forms of other elements in the structure of the poem, and these are punctuations. Punctuations such as commas, exclamation, period, semicolon, and colon have effects when applied in the poem. In most cases, a line ends with one of these punctuations. A concept end stopped is used to refer to a line that has a natural pause at the end using periods, comma, etc. Meaning that sometimes we can have a poem which has no any punctuation mark at the end. That in fact will make a poem to have a different effect compared to the line which is end stopped. For that case, let us try to go on other parts and punctuation. Sometimes the poets can employ punctuation to attain a specific effect as it is helps the melody of the language. For example, in the last 2 stanzas of this poem, you can see the way exclamation mark have been used almost 3 times in the first stanza. If we go to the second stanza, you can see the first 2 lines have ends with the exclamation marks. Then there is the 3 verses also ends with the period, but as well as you can see others. Why do you think that the poet decided to use excessively these exclamation or punctuation marks? It's because he wanted to achieve a certain effect. What is likely to be is because the nature of the poem it shows that there were a quick succession of events at the calling of the police to come, and the way the tenant was arrested and taken to jail did not last long. There were just events which were quickly one after another. Therefore, this might suggest that the punctuation used here are to show the quick successions of events. For that case, when you pass through a poem, try to look on those punctuation marks and try to think, why are they applied in a specific poem? Structural devices are important to identify the form of the poem. For example, how could you understand that this is a free verse? What is a free verse? A free verse poem is that which does not follow a set pattern of meter, rhyme scheme, stanza, and refrain. So, in order for you to understand that this type is a free verse, you must be in a position to scan the structural devices employed. For example, a poem which does not end with the rhymes, and even if it ends with the rhymes, but the rhymes can be different in interval. Therefore, it's likely to be lacking the features which we call a fixed verse. A poem, in fact, which has different length of the verses, meaning a verse in the first verse and second verse in the same stanza are differing. They are differing in the number of meters forming them. They are different in the number of syllables forming them. Therefore, there is no a set pattern of meter in that regard. For that case, it's likely also to bring the feature which we say is a free verse. Then, in most cases, a free verse poem lacks a refrain. However, sometimes you can have a free verse poem which has a refrain, as well as stanzas. A free verse poem has different types of stanzas. So you will find the first stanza is a sestet, the second stanza is a septet, and the other stanza is an octave. In that case, this will show that the poem does not set the same type of stanza from the beginning to the last. Rather, it uses various types of stanzas. A fixed verse, a poem which forms a set pattern of meter, rhyme scheme, stanza, and refrain. In fact, it's what we call a fixed verse. It's a fixed verse in the sense that the meters are constant. The first verse in the second verse and the third verse in the same stanza have the same number of meters. So if someone then wants to scan and point out the structural device in that poem, should not forget to show that the poem is formed of the same number of verses to form these different stanzas, as well as other features which make it a fixed verse. Dear learners, don't forget that we were still discussing about the topic which started in the last time. We were discussing about the poetic devices. The other time we discussed on the language devices. We also discussed as well as on musical devices. But for today specifically, we will wind up that part of poetic devices by discussing the concept of structural devices. In structural devices, we have tried to pass through few issues that make the structure of a poem. And we pointed out issues like syllable, meter, and verse. And I reminded you that at this level, we shall not go into detail on any meter and verses. But I will also advise you as a learner to go and work on these features. We pass through a stanza and we identify what a stanza is. That a stanza is a division, a poem form of a group of lines, set apart from others by a line. But we also pass through different types of stanza, don't forget about what are those different types of stanzas. Meaning, when you will be analyzing a poem, at the part of the structural device, you should ask yourself, are the poet applied the same type of stanza throughout, or there is a different type of stanzas? On top of that, we have also identified the way stanzas can fall, can have the punctuations can affect in the stanza, and the commas, full stop, we have discussed. But also, we have discussed the way Langston-Hughes applies the punctuations, the concept of the free verse, and the way the structure and the punctuations can help us to identify a free verse and a fixed verse. This question, in fact, is for you, but before this question, is also, well, there is one of the interesting poems, If We Must Die by Claude McKay. In fact, here I want to take Helena in a structural analysis of this poem and show you the other type of poem that in most cases is not found in our selected poems, but is identified by the structure. This is a sonnet. In fact, a sonnet is a type of poem which is formed of 14 verses or 14 lines, let us say. But in most cases, a sonnet differs. There are various types of sonnets. In this case, Claude McKay applied a sonnet which specifically is a Shakespearean sonnet. So, why we call it Shakespearean sonnet is because its structure. So, structural devices can take us into more than what we think. So, in this study, if you can see this, that by using the rhyming pattern of this poem, you will discover that the poem is organized in different units, where you can see the first 4 verses forms the quatrain. A quatrain is a type of a stanza formed of 4 lines. However, here the poem is in a single stanza, but these 4 lines suggest an idea. As you can see, the 4th line ends with the full stop. For that case, AB rhyme scheme, which is applied in these first 4 lines, makes a stanza-like in this 14 lines sonnet. You can see also CD line pattern in the next at the next rhyming pattern after the AB. As you can see, die, shade, Friday, but also EF rhyming pattern and the GG. Why do we call it Shakespearean sonnet? It's because Shakespearean sonnet were organized in that way, with AB, CD, EF, GG rhyming pattern, showing that it was formed of 3 quatrains ending with the single couplet. So for that case, let us go back to the question, which is now, I understand, you can go in your poems, discuss with your fellow learners, and try to work on this question. The question states, poetic devices are spices with which poets use to flavor their poems. Discuss this contention using 4 poems of your choice. 4 points from each poem. Don't forget to follow us on our Facebook page titled Elim Kisem, as well as on our YouTube channel Elim Kisem. In case you are not in a position to attend the last session, you can go back and visit the previous session on the same page. Also, invite your friends to follow us, subscribe, and comment. Thank you for watching.